All right, Who Dat Nation. Boy, brutally tough one today. One, we didn't need to be that tough, that ugly, that bad. But we're going to talk about it. Jason and I were both at the game, and whew,
It was a
it was
rough one today.
Yeah.
The
only thing that kind of halfway worked out for us was the whole row of Philly Eagles fans right behind us weren't that bad.
Yeah. They were
actually kind of cool.
Some kids with them, so you knew it was
yeah. So at least
a family outing.
Yeah, at least we didn't get the abuse at the end of the game that other sections that we can look around and see. It's like, oh man, I'm glad I got the family of 6 behind us because that would just be too much to take. But that's kind of the high point I could find walking out the dome today.
There was a lot of green in the dome today.
Yeah.
The people that were there in the black and gold, they showed out and it was loud, man. It had all the feel of a playoff atmosphere.
It did.
The fan and the excitement and every play mattering, right? For me, it's a game you got to win. It's a game that a team that you could possibly be fighting for a wild card spot with at the end of the year comes in and gives you 2 turnovers, 3 turnover on downs, and a block punt, and we produce 0 points out of all of that.
Kind of what I was telling you before about the whole. I'll throw take number 1 out that I have, which I was telling you. We kind of roll through some of the stuff, and I don't have all of the just stupid weirdness that was going on in this game written down, but the high points. But it's like I told you, it was literally like for 4 quarters watching 2 teams tell each other, no, bro, I don't need this one. You can go ahead and win this game. And the other one go, no. Look, you go. It was like they were fighting not to win for most of the game. And from players on the field all the way to coaching, it was just, we were walking out the dome because they're flashing the final numbers up there. Because this is where I'm kind of going to go with this and go total yards. How in the hell were we in this game? But you brought up most of it's going, yeah, we were giving up yards, but somehow, some kind of way, we find a way to get the freaking ball back. We were plus 2 turnover most of the game until the very end when he threw the pick. And I was like, the sacks, I think we had 3, they had 1, or we had 4, they had 1. So, negative plays were kind of in our favor, which is amazing considering their defensive line dominated our offensive line pretty much the whole game, and we had spots could dominate their offensive line and didn't get those. So it was just total. We
talked 2 weeks about how big O-line was, and we gave them their props, and they deserved it. Today they got punched in the mouth, and they got punched in the mouth all day. It wasn't like little body blows here and there getting down, but they got beat all day long.
The first drive, they held their own somewhat in the first drive, enough that we could hit the 2 big plays to Olave to get down the field because we ran the ball a little bit in that drive, but we also had some not good runs in that drive also. So it was kind of, but I think it was the 12 and 14 yarders, the 2 big passes to Olave gets us down there. But after that, it was a struggle bus to move people, to run the ball, to not have people in Derek Carr's face, which we talked about. That was one of the bad points that Carr kind of started getting the roll back throw. I can't blame him so much because I would be like, geez Christ, dude, y'all got to slow Carter and Davis down at some point in this game. But at the same time, like you said, it's like, man, 11 years in the league, you got to figure something out.
Right.
And our offensive coordinator's got to, which he was struggling to do, to find something that was going to work and alleviate some of that because I think those 2 passes to Olave in the first quarter, good job by Carr. And after that, it was real hard here and there to find a really good throw until the touchdown. And that's marginal because if not for the incredible double toe tap by Olave,
even that was a bad
he's out of bounds,
from
being as open as he was. So
right. He's a little late getting it out of his hand, and then he has a great catch. Otherwise, it's a blown opportunity, In
fairness, he did keep it in the field of play, but
we saw something with Carr today that I think has always been kind of talked about him with his career, that he put some pressure in his face and he's going to throw off his back foot and he's going to do passes where he's kind of leaning back and bending. He's not going to get the zip on the ball as you see when he's
Mhm.
comfortable back there, right? But he's the veteran, especially when
Yeah.
McCoy goes out. When McCoy goes out, all those other guys are looking at you, and it's only you at this point. You got to figure something out. You've got to be the one picking up your guys and saying, we're going to do this, change that. Go grab the offensive coordinator. Do something. You can't just let the
Yeah.
same thing continually go, 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 go. And I agree. We had a couple of nice plays on the first drive, and it felt like we iced Olave after that for a while.
Yeah. And I think maybe it might have been because Shaheed had 5 targets and no catches.
Right.
I think for a little bit we'll kind of get around to their game plan in a second, but I think that was Shaheed was part of it. Was don't let that guy beat you deep. So Olave was open a little bit, and they were making some defensive adjustments, not a lot, but I felt like on the back end, and in all fairness, I have not rewatched the game, and I guess I'm gonna have to suck it up and do it, and it won't be fun. But watching the game, it felt like little adjustments they were making here and there on the back end were kind of, and we fairly adjusted a little bit because we tried to get the ball to Shaheed a lot on some one-on-ones, couldn't really do it. Then we kind of went back to Olave. So, Kubiak was just a little hot and cold all day with the play calling and trying to scheme. It was like he was always a step behind Fangio, it seemed like, for most of that game.
A couple of those balls we threw to Olave, it's easy to call him 50-50 balls, but he's not a big guy. He's not a big receiver.
No, yeah.
He's not the guy that you want to be throwing jump balls to one-on-one with a free safety or a cornerback, We threw him 2 of those today, and I don't think it is a 50-50 ball. I think it's less than 50% when you go into a little guy. That's not his game. So it's not like he hasn't proven anything. Go out there, play your game, put him on the routes that he could be successful in.
Yeah. And kind of going back to
it's just sloppy. It felt sloppy.
It did. It did.
Felt sloppy. Offensive line felt not in unison, like we've been saying that they've been playing together. Cars mechanics look sloppy.
On the offensive side, the defensive side, for the most part, I think looked good, except we just could not at key moments. Sometimes at key moments we could make the play, but at really 2 big key moments, the 2 60-yard, the explosive plays, the 2 big 60-yarders, it was like, man, if you and I want to be careful because I don't want to put it out there that they were lucky to get the 2 60-yarders. I mean, look, Barkley and Goddard were having a day before that, but you had them kind of under control. They weren't killing you. And I'm looking at it right now, like even Hurts, you were so worried about, and I think a little bit of that was you were so worried about Hurts for a while in that game, but he was 8 for 25 as long as 21. So outside of really one play, you kind of had him contained, which is why we could keep them in a shutout situation for a long part of this game. And I think some of their turnovers and their bad decisions were based on that. And the worst decisions they made came from their head coach, and that kept us in the game for a long time, thankfully.
It's very hard for me to be critical of the defense today.
Me too.
I said a minute ago, you got 2 turnovers. The pick by Honey Badger, I mean, I don't know what Jalen Hurts didn't see or what he thought was going to happen, but he hit him right into 32.
That would be one of their few bad decisions, really.
I think in Honey Badger's head, he thought he was still, the LSU Honey Badger. He was going 108 to house it, right? But that wasn't going to happen. It was a good play. Made a play in the end zone, stopped the big drive. But look, 2 turnovers, right? Defense gets a turnover on downs 3 times, and we block a punt. You turn in that card as a defense, you got to look into the offensive room and go, what else y'all want?
Help us out a little bit. And like you said earlier, the real problem takeaway out from this game that really concerns me is it's too much shades of the last few years.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as some of those games, but what you said, kind of here we go again feeling. And I didn't really have that feeling during the game, but when the big play happened to Goddard, then I was flashing back going, these are the games the last few years, and we knew right at that point, that's it, it's done. We can go to the car right now because we're not going to come back and win this. We used to, at some point, a along the way years ago, that wouldn't have had sacked. We don't care. We only need a field goal. I will drive down. We'll kick it with no time left, walk out here with the win. But you knew we're not – this team is not at that point yet. And I think really what we're kind of circling around is you can't play and coach the game like you did today and expect to walk out with wins when you play any type of good team. And you played a good team today.
And,
I'm
it's
amazed we stayed in the game.
We talked about a lot about when we had Drew and it was in these situations. Granted, it was the scoreboard was lit up a little bit more probably.
Yeah.
But we always knew that he could get us the yardage necessary. Could the kicker at the time make the kick was kind of the next thing. And he was in the house today. He was honorary captain. He led the Who Dat chant. The dome was. From that moment when he walked out for the coin toss up until we threw the pick at the end, the dome was rocking. And it had a really good vibe to it going back and forth because the Philly had a nice section there and they were pretty loud for their guys. I don't know how many chants can one team have. I think I heard them all today. 8 of them. It's absolutely ridiculous. But we were there, and we talked about what Drew could do for us, and my dad was sitting next to me like, man, Drew would take us down and put an end zone right here, at least get us in the spot, and I don't know, maybe we stayed locked in and we didn't really have that here we go again moment or feel throughout the game because he was there, and it was a little bit of magic left in there, but as soon as we threw the pick, I was like, there it is. Here we go, 2023 again.
Well, for me, what it was we kept the game so close, and it was like we had literally the 2 drives. The very first drive where boom, boom, we had a couple pass plays. We're down there, and we can do that again. Hey, we kicked the field goal, we win the game. Or the touchdown drive, we had a couple plays – had to overcome Penning's 15-yard penalty, in fact, on that drive. It got down there. So you kind of had probably that's the only 2 really noteworthy drives we had the whole game. So it's like I kind of had the feel it's like maybe we could find one more. Even after the Goddard played and they scored the touchdown, and I'm like, look, there's some time left. We had a timeout in the back pocket. Maybe we can maybe we can find one more big play or 2 big plays in that drive. And I actually listened to the postgame when Carl was talking about that interception. To give him credit, he was honest going, I knew pressure was coming in my face, and I didn't want to take the sack. And I can't remember his exact words, but basically he said, so I was trying to force a ball down the field. And I think he said something like hoping the receiver would look, which the receiver turned out to be Olave. So he's trying to force a ball in there. And he said, reality, I probably should have just skipped it to him, taken the incompletion, live to play another. Then I was like, okay, at least you realize, that was not you had enough time, only needed a field goal to still try to get the ball down the field.
Here's my problem with that. You're 11 years into the league. You got to know that before you just back foot, throw one up like you don't really give a shit about the game, because that's what that feels like to me, right? That I'm just gonna there it is again. There's the pressure. Let me just winged it up in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
You got, and we said it like we're walking to the car going, why didn't we just throw it away? There was pressure. Why didn't we throw an incomplete pass?
That's basically what he said I should have done. But he's like, and it's the point of I was hoping he would look. So he's telling me it's like Olave was still trying to get in his route, and he wasn't even ready to get the ball. And I was like, and he still got cracked anyway. But like if you're gonna take the hit, man, you just maybe you hang on for another second and throw it away if you can't. If he doesn't look by that point where you can get him the ball, but. The point I was making though,
today, man. He had happy feet today.
And look, it's hard for me to blame him because like I'm not the guy that's got to stand there and stare down basically Jalen Carter and Davis almost untouched coming into your face. So I get that part of it, but at the same time, they're also not paying me $150 million to run the offense either. So I am kind of wishy-washy. I was like, and you're getting paid well to do it. So no, but I was the reason why I was happy to hear it because brother-in-law, I listened to him and we're like on edge, and it's like last year, one of the problems the fan base had with Derek Carr was in those situations. It wasn't the what all starting quarterbacks have to do in the NFL is kind of like publicly go, because he did say, I got to play better. I didn't play well today. I didn't start, which is true. He didn't really start out hot, but he made a couple big passes on the first drive, but it still wasn't what he was looking like the last couple of weeks. And that's going to happen to him because he's not Tom Brady and never will be. But last year, it has started out like that, and as he talked, he always had that kind of backpedaling, it's not really my fault stance. And so at least I screwed that up, and he didn't kind of talk to – now, in all fairness to him, if some of that shit that went on really wasn't his fault and he was dealing with other people's screw-ups, and that's why he's like trying to bail out going, because you guys kept blowing stuff. We didn't have that discussion on the sideline. Maybe they'll have it in the locker room. That to me is an important – to me, that's kind of the one thing that I feel taken away from this game. Last year, that reaction by him and some of the other people on the sideline, some of which are no longer in the team, and I think some of which have come on board. There's no shouting matches. There's none of that. That may happen outside of our view. If it does, whatever, fine, work it out. But I'm going, okay, at least we're not – I guess what I'm trying to say is at least we don't have 53 guys right now or 45 of the 53 with pointing fingers going like we kind of had last year. It's like, okay, you played shitty. You coached crappy. You got lucky to stay in the game. You had your chances to pull it out. You came very close. It's all of our fault. Let's work on the problems. Let's fix them. Get it done soon. Get ready for Atlanta. So now I don't know. You probably can't take too many more games like this before it could revert back to what we saw the last couple of years. So clean this stuff up.
Next week's a big one. Next week huge. For me kind of determines. I know we play 17 games now, but it's pretty much a quarter of the season, and you can look at it and go, if we go 2-2, then we are who we are. Exactly what we were last year. I think we started out 2-3, or 1-2, lost 3, or 2. We were streaky, right? We talked. Yeah,
we got to avoid that.
Years ago, if you can't go into Atlanta and beat Atlanta, I know they put together a couple of nice games already, but if you can't go there and beat Atlanta, then we are not who we thought we were the first 2 weeks.
No. And even if you like I said after the game today, if this was a situation where both teams played well and it came down to the wire and they were just a little better than you,
right?
That's something we experienced rarely in the last few years. It was most of the time our losses were either we were getting drubbed out the stadium from the jump, or we kind of gave games away, which we kind of sort of way did. That's why it's a little concerning. Even at this point in the season, if you go on the road to Atlanta on, I think it's a Sunday regular 12 noon game, to go in there and the same thing, and you come out 2-2, because I always said, if you get to Kansas City or you leave Kansas City, 2-3, because that's week 5, your season really starts with Tampa Bay next week. You got to beat them, and then you've got to get on the roll. Well, we had a chance today to start the roll now and make that a little less important, and I think that's where you're sitting right now. Atlanta's huge because you want to avoid going to Kansas City, taking a loss, which by all rights we should. If we happen to pull that game out, then it's going to be I'm going to have celebrations like I did the last 2 weeks, because that would be unheard of. But coming out of that 2-3 going, we have to go beat Tampa now. We have to – that role, we've got to rip off 2, 3, 4 in a row to get right.
Right. I don't think going to Atlanta and beating Atlanta makes us – one of the better teams like we felt like we were the first week 1, week 2. But I do think if you go to Atlanta and lose to Atlanta, then it kind of puts that out of sight. Yeah, and you gotta reevaluate some things and kind of see, where are we going to go from there? What kind of team we're going to be? If you're 3-1 going into Kansas City on a Monday night, I believe, I think that's huge. Bright lights, and that's kind of the prime time chance to go, okay, we can come out of here 4-1 and show everybody we're for real. That's the one where we're for real. I think even if you lose that land and you go give KC a good game, but lose that game, you come out with a losing record, like you said, you go to Tampa the next week, and man, you could be falling 2-3 games back in the division and be struggling at that point and start having to kind of piece together how you're going to get in on the wild card if that's even possible. Which is division is not.
Which we were trying to do the last couple of years. So yeah, that's the avoidance you got to get on the. You got to stay out of. The win today would have avoided that. You just made Atlanta more important, but Atlanta's still important because it's division games. Because the weirdness in all this, no matter what happens, you beat Atlanta, you beat Tampa Bay, you 3-0 in the division. That speaking of the weirdness, not only our game being weird, but who saw Carolina beating the crap out of the Raiders today?
Hey, Red Rocket, baby.
I know. It's like, what is going on here? So I'm hoping everything gets back to a little more normal.
It's really been a crazy year. That's another worry of mine is the part of the crazy year, the way that the Saints came out the gate,
Are they part of the crazy or are they for real?
Today there were a lot of games where when you look at the scoreboards, you go, man, it's not the way I pictured that happening. And then you look around the NFL at some of these teams that you talked about being a top draft pick, having a top draft pick next year, and Minnesota, they're starting out 3-0. Chicago 3-0. Did they win again today?
Yeah, they have to. Did they? Or did they?
Somebody else that was supposed
Minnesota beat Houston. They're 3-0. Somebody who was 2-0 lost. Yeah, I can't remember. I kind of rolled through all that like right when I got home and forgot. But I want to say because I got Taylor Williams.
Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's 3-0. Not Chicago. Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Right. Their guy Russell Wilson gets hurt right before week 1, and they're 3-0. Minnesota, their guy JJ McCartney gets hurt, and they're 3-0.
Sam Darnold is.
It's been a weird year. Hopefully today was just one of those weird games. I think that's a great way to describe it. You don't get handed the ball 6 times, turn it into 0 points, and win a game. But we were right there at the end with a chance.
Yeah. Well, and also in the weirdness, penalty wise, we were 3 for 25. They were 7 for 45. And you look at our 3 penalties, and I don't know if you remember them. Because when I looked up the penalties, the third one I completely forgot. It was erased from my memory. But the first one was he was the second. The first one was Moreau, first drive. We're 2nd and 6 at the 8. False start. Backs us up. Next play, Kamara's hit for a negative on the run, stalled drive out, field goal. And it's like you were moving the ball that whole drive going, what if? That's one of the big what ifs when I realized that going, man, if you can punch it in and go up 7-0 right there, how much of this game changes just from the jump,
Right.
It had a chance to be a totally different game at that point, which we'll never know. Penning was the second one on the again, if you're going to call that, and you should, that was a penalty. You needed to call CD Deuce on Kamara on the first or second play of the game when he got bounced
100%.
20 yards out of bounds.
100%.
Whatever which way you call one of them, you have to call the other one the same way. But by rights, they should have both been 15-yard penalties. So all I really got – the other thing I have to say is Penning needs to calm his Jets down. That's 2 weeks in a row. I don't want him to be the next Kyle Turley. Just
right. Yeah, we don't need that. You've been playing too well for that.
Yeah, just calm it down a little.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of frustration with him today. He kind of got eaten
up. I think so. I think there was a lot of frustration. Yeah, all over. But that's hot take number 2 when we get to that. But the last one was illegal. It was the one on Taylor on the last illegal hands to the face or whatever.
Oh yeah.
They threw a 5-yard pass. I think we had an incompletion or something because they called – or no, it was tacked on. I think there was tacked on at the end of a play or whatever. The next 3 plays was the breezy sack, incompletion, 67 yards, whatever it was to Goddard. Yeah. So, I mean, it was 3rd and 16 or whatever. You survived basically 2 of the – you had a chance to survive 2 of the penalties. You survived the 3rd one. So that wasn't even a factor in this game.
Right.
When you had a couple bad decisions there that led to penalties or, the Taylor thing, I'm like, I guess maybe he did push to the, but you see that a lot. I don't know. That's always not flagged, but whatever. We had a chance to overcome it. The real problem on that drive was the Three Stooges on the crossing route to Goddard.
Right.
And I don't know if you.
From what it looked like Gabe was covering him, man, coming across the field.
Well, what it was they were crossing routes. After the game, Honey Badger and Dennis Allen both say we were basically playing man that whole drive. We were just deciding they're going to have to beat us in man. So we had man on the cross. Howden comes from deep because Dennis Allen also said we knew the ball was going to Goddard, so we were trying to double team him. Well, apparently Howden was the double teamer because he came from the secondary. The first collision was him and Lattimore. Then whoever was trailing the play that started on because Goddard came from the offensive right on him, and I think it might have been Harris, but I'm not sure. The view I saw from Twitter was the high view, and I couldn't quite see all the numbers. But he came in on the collision after that, and that's how you kind of got that three jumboed up. So I'm like,
my issue is the formation that we came out of, the alignment. We put 3 linemen, 2 linebackers, 6 DBs on the field.
Yeah.
And we end up man up with one guy that's killing us. It just.
Well, you're trying to double team him. I think the issue is. I don't think the issue is the alignment. I think the issue is
because you got to get pressure on it.
If double team
I hate at the end of the game when they don't keep running at least some sort of 4-man front with pressure where it's just all sit back, cover as long as you can, and it just.
Well, I don't know what everybody else was doing, but I don't know where Gay was because he was one of the linebackers. I know he was up on the line. Did he go? Because that makes it 4-man right there if he goes.
I thought Gay was the one that followed Goddard across and ran into.
It might have been. But we had guys up that didn't all come out because we were playing man up there. But the thing is still, I got to look at Howden. If he's on the double team and he's coming from that side, he's running diagonally across and slams in the Lattimore going, the real issue might have been we didn't quite have that double team set up like we thought we had. And all of a sudden Howden comes screaming down because the ball's already in the air. I don't even know where he was running to because he wouldn't have affected the throw. If he was late, if he realized suddenly, oh, shit, I got to be down there to help with I honestly don't know. But the call, I wouldn't have mind man up in that situation, double team on Goddard. But somebody screwed up badly in there. My guess is Howden right off, but I don't know for sure. And I'm like, if you're going to double team, just get him up either at the line or if you were waiting to double team him after the cross, get him on that side of the field at least because he was coming from the opposite safety. It's like they made zero because initially when we saw it live, I thought we had a communication where somebody thought it was man and somebody thought it was zone because a lot of times that's when you see shit like that happen. But no, apparently we were man trying to double team and had somebody coming in late, created. I'm like, Jesus Christ. As well as you played the 2 previous plays to put them in that position, to have that screw up. Like,
right.
Sum up the game as a whole of play well, do something ridiculously dumb or make a bad decision or whatever went on that play. And then all of a sudden, just like going like that. It's like continuously 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. It was like all game long, just doing that. I'm like, Jesus, even on that, it was a razor's edge. On that, just if you execute just one more time right, maybe you put them in the position it's 4th down. Then you got to find one more play you want to win the game instead of everything that played out like it did.
And I agree. And
but it's hard to get mad at them because
as well as they played all game and the amount of chances that they gave our offense, and then they
it's hard to get mad.
A minute 10 in a timeout. We need to get a field goal. We got to make that happen, especially at home.
Yeah. I mean, and especially the offensive regression would have all been forgiven if you could just piece together one more drive, get groupie close enough to bang it. So, that was just, again, weird. It was just – it just – I mean, that was the whole thing when I was going through all this and pulling these up. And it was like both teams literally tried to let the other team win. It was almost like at the end, Philly was like, "Fine, we'll go win the stupid thing, hit the big play," and But the other thing we talked about before, I just don't know if we even need to discuss this because it was apparent, definitely if you were at the game watching it for 4 quarters, physically, they whooped us up and down the field, both sides of the ball, especially the offense. The defense did have its moments again where we were physically answering, but I think for the most part, you would probably a lot of the one-on-ones, their offense may have won more one-on-ones than our defense. The defense won against their offense. It was a stalemate at best for us on the defense, but the offensive side was brutal.
Yeah,
that can't happen
controlled
anymore.
The line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball all game. Defense played well enough, got you the ball back a whole bunch. Can't say that enough. But even in those situations, the turnover on downs, the good drives, they ran it up the middle, couple to the edge. They drove it on us all day. We did not drive it on them at all.
Twice. That's it.
Twice, right? 2 drives. It's rough, but as many times we had the ball today, that's rough.
Yeah, especially since I didn't look this up, and I would be totally shocked if we had any 3-and-outs on them. We might have had one somewhere in there. I know they had a couple on us. Yeah. So they were moving the ball. We just kept bailing ourselves out. We're talking about the when they lost both their tackles.
Right.
It did help our defensive line out a little bit, but even before that, we were getting good play from Granderson, pretty good play from Brzee, and at times Young was stepping up. But outside those 3, there wasn't just a whole lot going on the rest of the game. And after they lost those tackles, that's where I'm really disappointed. You didn't see more guys stepping up to go, like we lose our best lineman, and everybody they're putting in the middle is stepping up and causing havoc and trying to make plays. When it's reciprocated to us when they lose too, they're outside. It's like we don't have anybody stepping up. So again, I know it's hard to be mad on the defense, but little things like this makes a huge difference in the game.
Yep, I agree. It got to a point in the game where they're without 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers and the 2 top tackles who are both very good players. We got to shut down a drive at the end of the game in that situation. I 100% agree.
Yeah, don't run into each other would help.
Yeah, it's an all too familiar feeling.
Yeah.
I'm peeking over here, and Atlanta's driving on Kansas City to possibly take the lead in the 4th. They pull this off, it'll make it even more important in the next 2 weeks. So,
and
back at the building, watch the film, hit the practice hard this week, and maybe that's it too. We got a lot of guys that have been out of practice, and at some point that catches up to you. The first couple of weeks, you're obviously running a lot of things you've been working on, but you have guys on the line that are sitting out all week in practice, and I jokingly said, "Hey man, it could be Plaxico Burress, and as long as they play well, don't never make them practice." But you need to be out there, just for comfort, if not anything else.
Well, you mentioned something about the roster because this is really the last thing that I wanted to get to, and I didn't have it written down. You said earlier you were talking a little bit about the roster, and I was like, "Oh yeah," and this is a gripe. Not necessarily specific to what went on in the game today, but just kind of rolling into it. And I think that's part of it. The inactives a little bit. Now, part of that is due to some guys just being hurt, who's active and who's not active. But also part of it, the first gripe I have starts with we don't have a true backup center. And part of today's issue in the middle was we took our starting left guard, who's obviously a better left guard than he is center, having to move him to center, then pull him. I know Udo finished most of the game. I thought Landon Young made an appearance, but I can't swear to that at some point in there. But Saldivari, who's been on the roster, it sounds like he's practicing. I did not see him come in. I was like, at some point, maybe don't we give him a shot? Because he was supposed to be the starter. Could he maybe go bail us out in there? So the roster management kind of putting him on the active who plays, who doesn't play. I don't understand it. Maybe they have some logic to it. But in games like this is where it kind of bites you. On the defensive line also, Kalen Saunders hurt inactive. You don't try to pull up because we've got Vickers, I think, still. So you have an extra guy that you might have been able to use today, maybe on the inside. We pull up Stalbert. I guess we needed him for special teams somewhere in here. You mentioned the jump ball. We had the only guy we really truly had on the field we could throw a jump ball to was Juwan Johnson, which the way they were playing us, which was basically very heavy. Like you didn't see a whole lot of Josh Sweet early in the game. Now later in the game, you saw an awful lot of him because he was coming hard off that edge. But you saw a lot of Brandon Graham with Davis and some of their other guys I don't know, backups who were rotating in. They were just saying, you're not running the ball on us. And when you are going to try to throw it, the big beasts were just pushing through our offensive linemen and beating them, and you were getting a decent pass rush from those same guys on the inside. That can't happen. And that's physical. That's dope. Do we have enough people? If we needed to throw a jump ball, Juwan Johnson was the only guy that could have done it. Did not have the time for him to get downfield to do it. Barry was sick. We were talking about that. Means healthy scratch. That's probably your two best jump ball guys you might have had available. And it might have came to at some point, just look, run down there and I'm throwing it high. Go beat Slay or Maddox or Mitchell, whoever's on you. You got to go win a one-on-one, jump up and catch it, and not put Shaheed in those situations.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see they say A.T. Perry should be back next week, so I'll be interested to see
I hope so.
Offense. It's got to go and make it happen. It's the bottom line.
But we knew there was going to be a punch in the face moment.
Yeah,
allowed that this was kind of this. We were riding high the greatness of the last 2 weeks. When I found out Taysom was going to be out last night, that's when I started down here in the pit of the stomach going, that might be an issue. But what it really boiled down to is I thought we could run the ball enough that it didn't matter, that we would be able to score points. And they just said, no, you're not going to do that. They got real physical, real violent in that line, especially the interior. And we just didn't have much of an answer for them.
That's going to be I can assure you that's going to be the game plan moving forward is make their car beat you. Do not let Kamara beat you.
Yeah, don't let them run the ball. Just eliminate the running game. So it's on Kubiak to roll through Northern Saints stuff real quick. I wouldn't say strictly on those three, but they all had a very, very heavy hand in it. But there was offensive line. There was some at times some suspect defenders, and even the guys who balled out today. It's hard to bang on Honey Badger for the great game he had when he had one blown coverage, missed tackle on Goddard on a cross that turned into a first down or, kind of a game. It's like, because I'm sitting next to your brother, and he actually said, he's like, man, I want to get pissed at that, but I can't because he's just been so good this game that, and it's like, but as brother-in-law was telling me in the drive home, he goes, yeah, but all those stack, even though he made 20 great plays or whatever on defense, they all start adding up, even if it's just one guy one time.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you got a point there too.
To me, that shows that there's positions that he gets in that makes him very vulnerable. And a lot of times it's you see it because he's chasing people, and even as he's chasing them, he's not catching them.
Yeah. So yeah,
you're right. He's been very good. He's been very good, but yeah, and those plays happen when you're up 30. It's different than whenever it's a tie ball game.
Yeah, and he even I think kind of brought that up in his post. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he's kind of talking about you play great defense for 55 minutes, but you don't play for 5 minutes.
Right.
Take a play off and all whatever. It hurts you. It could still cost you the game. And I was like, 100% right.
I know every team does it at the end of the game, and they go to that same formation. But to me, if it was the other side of the ball, we would be saying, why are you going away from what's working?
Yeah, true.
And I know it's commonplace. I know it's probably a numbers thing. Statistically, it works better, whatever, but it doesn't feel that way watching games. You watch teams just drive down at the end of games all the time. It's to me, it's stick with what's working. That's kind of how I am. you know, and I felt like we put enough. We made Hurts at least uncomfortable all game, and I think his completion percentage showed that. And that last drive, you know, he had all day. Looked like
Well, other than the Brzee sack, you know, Brzee got a hold of him once, but yeah, and really, he jacked it up 38 times. You figure you force quarterback, especially, you know, somebody like him, to throw it up, put it in the air 38 times. You're like, oh man, we're probably ahead in this game. That's like garbage time throws right now in the NFL trying to catch up, and it's like, no, it was just a weird game. I actually do think we have viable tight ends. It's all about kind of getting them the ball. And today was not we couldn't get the ball to anybody today. So I would put it to you this way. If we could have magically traded for Dallas Goedert but right before kickoff and he'd have been on the Saints, the only thing I could tell you, he wouldn't have went for 10 for 170 against us. But I couldn't guarantee you that even then we could still get him the ball for him to do anything against Philly. They just Juwan Johnson and Moreau have shown when we can get him the ball or we got him in the offense, they can make plays.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is a sore point we had during the game about passing up points in a tight game where you were struggling to score touchdowns. In fact, you only had
passed up 2, they passed up 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the flip side of that. They did the exact same thing. And the one they decided to take, they rolled them out for the 60-yarder in a tight game late in the game to give us good field position. Right. So I'm like, I'm just calling those Sirianni. Sirianni himself like 4 or 5 times when it came to stuff like this. And that helped keep us in the game a lot. Yeah. 100% facts right there. And especially talking about the physical play and all, they got to get it back and they got to bring it back next week in Atlanta. I think he did. I think it's an execution point, and I think it's and look, not all schemes work when they try to. With you know, as much as we'd like to say, everything you try should work, it doesn't. And again, I can't. If the defense doesn't do what it does today on the positive side of the ledger, we're down 4-5 touchdowns or scores or whatever by halftime. It's Detroit game from last year all over again. It's a perfect repeat of that. So it got more on this on the offense, executing and not getting pushed around on the line of scrimmage like they were today. That one, I think we just didn't want to pay him. I don't think we could pay him. We were in such.
You can't pay many people.
Yeah, and when you're looking at having DeMario and Werner as your 2 guys that you're liking, he becomes expendable. The thing is about him is
we talked about Vaughn in one of our preseason shows how he when he finally started being allowed to rush the passer last year, how
he played better. Yeah.
We should probably try to hold on to, but we knew we wouldn't be able to just because where we're at with the salary cap.
And who I think the only way you could have kept him is because you hadn't extended Werner at that time. So maybe you make the choice you're going to cut Werner and keep Bowen.
No, I wouldn't do that.
That's a tough call. So I mean,
I worry if Werner's going to last and have a long career. He looks kind of undersized out there, but man, I like the way he plays. He flies around, he's always in on tackles, right? He's a guy that if you put a hit on somebody that you got a teammate that's going to come and clean it up.
Yeah, and he had a couple of big ones too. In fact, the first play when they did the RPO and we got Hurts, I believe, the very first offensive, that was Werner shooting in there. I think that they got. So yeah, he and I think that's where he's at his best, is coming up on the run. I don't think he's terrible at the other stuff, but I think that's like his real. When you can get in that position where he's filling gaps and can get in the backfield, that's on the run game. That's where he's really, really dangerous. So it's back to I almost feel like it's back to square one, but you're right. We're 2-1. So, I mean, big game in Atlanta this week. Huge.
Big game.
Got to get physical. That's where I'm starting right now. You got to get the physicality back that you had the first 2 weeks, which I think you said earlier. It's easy to do when you're winning big, but you got to figure out a way to do it when they're pushing your buttons like Philly did to us today. And I suspect Atlanta's going to try to do the same thing. I suspect Atlanta's going to try to repeat with Onyemata, and I believe is Grady Jackson is still floating around there, right, in the interior for them. Brother-in-law told me that today, and I was like, "Is he? I don't know. Could be, but whoever they've got in the middle, that they're going to watch today and go, yeah, let's try that with a little Matt Judon sprinkled in."
Right.
So,
yeah, they
expect more of the same. You're going to have to step up and do it.
Yep. Judon and those guys could definitely cause some havoc. So we got to come ready to push back. Bottom line, come back ready to push. I do not have a score. I see we got one up there, a score prediction. No score predictions yet. I do score predictions Sunday mornings.
Yeah, and they're mad at me because I wait till the injury report on Fridays, which got me in trouble because it looked like Taysom was going to play, thought he was going to play, and then they dicked me on Saturday and last night going, oh, no, he's doubtful. And then I didn't even catch he was out this morning until I got in the bunker and asked you. You're like, oh, no, they said he was out. I'm like, damn it.
Yep. Yeah. So Sunday morning predictions for me to I like to get a feel for it. I had a better feeling today than the outcome. So hopefully,
I did too.
Get back on the roll next week.
But I will put it with this caveat though that it's like from the very first prediction I threw out there against Carolina, I suck at these things. Admittedly, So, I hope to God nobody's laying bets on what I'm predicting scores and outcomes are going to be because please don't. I guarantee you're losing your money unless maybe you bet opposite of what I tell you or what I predict. Then maybe you might be okay. So
I tell you what, man. Based off of the games this year, I don't think anybody's good at predicting. There's been some wild games.
I will say I dangled a couple parlays out there the last 2 weeks. I did nothing I'm like, nope. I'm just no, not doing it. Walking away for a while. Maybe things get a little more predictable and a little under control. And I'm again, for this team, they've got to get things just back on track, under control, and just not let the overall disaster that's in. I don't know if it was – this is what's hard about this early in the season when you don't really know what your team is, much less the teams they're playing against at this point going, was this just a bad day all the way around? Was it started to come undone early because we were not sharp on that first drive even though we were able to move it. Did things kind of unravel there? It's this team – I know they're still trying to figure stuff out. Or is it just – Philly was that much of a better team than us, which is possible. They should be on paper, honestly. So I don't know.
I mean, look, 3 games. This was the first time that what we were trying to do wasn't working.
Exactly.
We had our way in game 1 running the ball. We had our way in game 2 running the ball. It set up the pass perfectly. We just couldn't get anything going in the run game today, and I think it showed in our quarterback and the way that he was moving backwards today that caused a lot of pressure and a lot less opportunities in the pass game.
I will say this, when that started happening, which I kind of second, third drive, like I said, he wasn't crisp on that first one. It might have been the second drive because I think we had a 3-0, 3 incompletion drive in there, and I have to go back and look at the drive chart early. Maybe the second or third drive overall. Let me see if I can find it real quick because I know we're both ready to kind of wind it down. Oh, no. The second drive was he took a sack, first play, incomplete to Rashid, and then that was the Kamara draw play that actually gained 9 yards, and then we punted. That's the one I'm thinking of, and that was the second drive of the game. And I think that's when you on one of those on the throw there, you went, he's off his back foot. I remember when you said it, when he did it. And I didn't see it the first time. And like the very next throw he made, it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because kind of saw it again. I was like, oh no, please no.
Yeah.
It wasn't the whole entire game because a couple of times he did stay in there and make it, but it was enough. I think it affected a lot.
It did.
What came first, the chicken or the egg? At that point, is it the pressure and he's doing that, or he's doing that, and then they're really teeing up the pressure, going, "Oh, we're getting him," or some combination thereof. But
yeah, and look,
whatever,
I think,
it's got to stop.
I think as a defensive player, you notice those kind of things.
I think so too. And
we did that to Matt Ryan for years. We made him get off his back foot, and when he did, he would start throwing the ball and sailing them right to us. You knew getting pressure on him. I can remember the Saints defense. I don't remember who it was at the time, but they would always talk about, man, you start making him move his feet backwards, and that's when he starts giving you the ball.
Tom Brady for years, those last couple of games, we get him off when we could get him off his spot, he was totally ineffective. When we couldn't, he ripped us apart. And and when we started moving him in those games where we did beat him and make him kind of look bad, once it started, it just kept going. And it was like, I think you're right. I think, oh, we got him. And it just kind of ratchets it up a little more. And you get them thinking. It's human nature. And they start thinking about moving or getting off the back foot or whatever. So, but like I said, regardless of how it starts, got to figure out a way to stop it so you don't keep adding to problems like we were doing, Again,
that's
2 steps forward,
back
5 steps back.
You're the veteran. You gotta stop the bleed.
Yeah, some kind of way.
At some point, you have to know at 11 years in the league that you're going to get into these kind of games where things just aren't working. And if you happen to be lucky enough to keep it close, at this point in your career, you've got to be the guy that the team leans on.
Yeah. Him and Alvin.
You lean on a guy going backwards.
Yep. I think right now when you look at that, it's him, Alvin, and Taysom kind of have to have that leadership role, but he's the starting quarterback, so it's always going to start with him. I mean, for good or bad, or whether he wants it or not, that's just kind of the way the NFL works. You're the starting quarterback. You're the guy. Throw in 11-year veteran. Now you really got a bunch of young guys that are doing it and going, So hopefully he, gets right. And look, this could just be. I'm hoping it's just one of those games. It's a bad game. Just wash it, flush it, fix what you need to fix, do the work this week, get yourself back on track. But again, that just keeps going back to the fact, man, Atlanta's suddenly a big game for all the factors we've been talking about for the last hour. It's like that's a big game now.
Yeah, absolutely. Big test.
All right, last one, because, I know we're both exhausted, and you got to do the thing tomorrow morning. You don't have tomorrow off like last week.
Right.
So I don't know how much of a future Williams have, but I feel like if Miller doesn't actually come back very soon and start producing, we were talking about that today before the game going, it sounds like they're ready to run out of patience with him. And I get the feeling, a vibe that kind of came in training camp. He was one specifically mentioned, but there were some other few players that think the way the rosters worked out, it's not like everybody had a roster spot sewn up that were in his position, the younger players. But I think they got a time limit. I think they going, we're not doing what we were doing the past few years and wait forever for somebody to develop.
Yeah.
What a lot of teams do, it's like, man, you're getting into your second, third year and you're showing you're not the guy. We're going to move on, especially when you're on a rookie deal, because it's real cheap for us to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
So
my first time on here, I said I'm done with Kendra Miller. He can't get on the field. Feel bad for the guy, but it's been 2 years of hype, and he just can't get on the field. But if he would come back healthy, I think this type of offense that fits him.
I do too.
I made a comment about Jamal Williams today that if he's going to be on the roster, we're going to be paying him that money. Then, when Taysom's out, he's got to be able to say, hey, give me that 1 yard carry. That 2 yard carry, I'm going to get that first down for you, even if it's the only carry in the game. And truly, that's kind of what we signed him for. I thought, we took him after that big year in Detroit where that's what they used him as, where majority of his carries were inside the 10. And
inside zone guy. That's
like
his
58
forte. Is
that's crazy.
he's an inside zone runner. That's where he's at his best. And I think today we just said no inside zone runs going right at those two big behemoths that are giving us all kind of hell. So I was taken off the board. The only question I had on that today was, do you maybe give Mims a shot in this?
Yeah.
The little younger guy, a little more physical. I know he's young and it might scare you a little bit, but he might be the guy that can get some hard-nosed runs in there if you don't want to use Williams to do it. See if he can move a pile. See if he can run over somebody,
Hey, he ran like he was hungry to help. I liked him in the preseason. He caught a ton of passes in the preseason too. So obviously he's got that in his game. Yeah, I expected to see much more of him. Now, granted, the first 2 weeks we didn't need anybody else, right? And I like that, but I expect to see more of him kind of in those, give Kamara a break moments. But Taysom's out today. We didn't really see much of anybody else outside.
Yeah, it was pretty much the last. Literally, I know we're both like ready to call it a night, but just real quick, I'll look that one up. 29 total carries on the day. Kamara 26, Carr 2, Williams 1.
There you go.
So, I mean, he shouldered the whole load. 29 for 87.
Yeah, that's right.
26 for 87. Yeah, 26 for 87. So, yeah. And you're not going to make a living getting him game in, game out, letting him get that many touches. So, to the point, to wrap this up about Kendre Miller, he gets healthy. He needs to show up. If he wants his future job security, he needs to show up and ball out. I mean, that's right. Kind of where we're at right now. Just think he's eligible week 5 to come off, and I don't know how long it's going to take. I think they got 3 weeks before they can decide to activate him or not, or whatever, however the rule is. So, whatever that is, he needs to show up doing that. Impress the crap out of him. I'm ready to go. I'm fully healthy so they can activate him and get him in this offense. Because by that point, we're going to need to get Kamara some help other than just Taysom. It's like one of those other guys he's got to step up and get some carries and make some plays.
Yep, I agree. All right, last thing for me, 30 Bears down. So that's plus.
I agree with that. Let's go ahead and take care of the Dirty Birds. And right now, the only birdies I'm thinking of, the one I'm going to be counting in about 10 minutes when I'm finally going to crash out. So appreciate you stopping by. I'm a little more – it was cathartic. I feel like it was like some type of therapy. I'm feeling a little better than I was. Still not great, but I might actually, rest comfortably tonight a little bit. We'll see. But,
it's good to get it off your chest. Like I tell all the kids that I coach, you take the loss to your pillow. When you wake up the next morning, it's gone. So got to move on.
Absolutely. 24-hour rule. So hopefully, and the team is going to take effect of that. And tomorrow's starts it off for them. New work week. Atlanta, Dirty Birds, huge game. But hey, gotta go play it. Gotta go play it hard. Gotta go win it. So
do it.
All righty, my guys. So thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining us. Till I see you next time. I'm Tim. That's Jason. Peace out and who dat.